Hello and welcome to the Doofcast, a film and TV podcast from Doof Media. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me, as always, behind that microphone is something wonderful just waiting to get out. It's Matt Freeman. How's it going today, Matt?
That's right. I'm ready to share my special gift with everyone.
Yeah, everyone has a special gift, and yours is your very large talent.
That's right. It's this trick I can do with my finger.
Okay.
Yeah.
This week on the show, our series Deconstructing the Films of Paul Thomas Anderson continues with the director's second feature film. We're talking about 1997's Boogie Nights. And Matt, refresh my memory. This was one of the handful PTA films that you had seen going into this project.
Correct. Yes, I had seen this one before. It was really good to rewatch it because I think when I first watched it might have been before we even started podcasting, to be honest. So, it's been a while. Mm-hmm. Good to digest it. Good to talk about it. So excited to talk about it with you.
Yeah, same. And then after we wrap up with Boogie Nights, we're going to, at the end of the episode, talk about the Alien Earth trailer that dropped just today on the 5th of June. Have some words about, that show and what we think it's going to be and if we think it's going to be any good. We're both big Alien heads.
Yeah.
Is that what they call themselves?
Yeah, we're chest bursters. That's what we call ourselves. Yeah.
We got to get a better name.
We do.
So that's the show. All right, let's get right into it and talk about Boogie Nights.
In 1977, a kid from nowhere.
Maybe think about your name.
My name, yeah.
Something a little pizzazz.
Dirk Diggler. Good name.
I like your name a lot.
Had a dream of getting somewhere.
Jack Horner has found something special in newcomer Dirk Diggler.
So let me just pop in this 8-track, and you just give a listen and tell me what you think, okay?
Matt, what is this movie all about?
An idealistic porn producer aspires to elevate his craft to an art when he discovers a hot young talent.
This movie was, of course, written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. It stars Mark Wahlberg, Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds, of course, just a huge, extensive cast of wonderful characters. Matt, this was the first time you've revisited Boogie Nights in a while. What did you think of Paul Thomas Anderson's second film?
It's a great film in so many different ways. It's such an unusual film.
Yes.
And So I guess the easy answer is that I love it. It's a great film. It's very entertaining. The more complex answer is that I already feel out of my depth with Paul Thomas Anderson. and what I mean specifically is his movies, so many of his movies are so thematically layered and intricate and often ambiguous. And sure. I find that's one of the reasons I'm interested in talking about this with you is I don't really know exactly what this movie is saying. But I know that it's saying all kinds of things. So maybe you and I can tease that out. So what do you think
we
about
can figure that out. I mean, I think the most clear thing this movie is saying is don't do cocaine. It's bad for you.
Yeah, because everything would have been totally fine if they hadn't done the cocaine. So it's pretty
totally. Has nothing to do with the changing landscape of the adult entertainment industry at all.
And just the overall changing landscape of America.
True.
Over the late 70s and early 80s, yeah.
Did you know this movie came out in 97, takes place in 77? So you make the movie today and it's about 2005. It's a really uncomfortable fact.
It's uncomfortable, but it's also funny because when we were kids living in the 90s, right, we thought of the 70s as, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But to our parents, that was 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And that never felt true to me, but obviously it was. That's just interesting to think about.
It's also this phenomenon that happens, I think, when you look back at time periods, you feel like there was such dramatic change in culture and people in between those times, the 60s to the 70s to the 80s to the 90s. So when you're 90s kids looking back at these periods of time, you're like, oh my God, life is just totally different now. And I think that's still true from 2000 25 to 2005. I think like life has dramatically changed for people. But it's just different. It's like, it's a thing you don't notice when you're living it.
That's true. And also there's like the core of humanity that literally never changes. And
That is
that's
true. Yeah.
kind of most of your experience of yourself is just like, I'm a person.
Yeah.
The size of my phone doesn't really impact that very much.
The size of your phone, you say?
The phone, which changes size between 1970 and 2025.
I was trying to make a dick reference.
I see. Yeah. The size of, I mean, that has a huge impact on your life, I assume.
Yeah. So Boogie Nights, man. I kind of agree with you. Like, I feel like this is just a very complicated movie. There's a lot going on here. I mean, I think the simplest, most easiest theme to talk about to me is this concept of a kind of found family. And I think the reason why I want to focus on that first is because I think that is the biggest through line thematically to me to Heart 8, where you have all these characters in all these different situations, and they are basically finding each other and attempting to get strength from each other. I think the difference is in this movie, they all have sex with each other. But
Yeah.
it's really, I mean, like, I think on the surface level, I left this movie saying like, oh, so it's kind of like the Goodfellas, but for porn.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of things that invite that comparison. I think the opening shot of this movie is a long oneer as we kind of follow people through this club that is, I don't know if intentionally trying to be like Goodfellas, but is like very reminiscent of like the opening walk through the club in Goodfellas. And it does play with this very specific structure of that you see in a lot of films of like things start off really well and everyone's happy and everyone's getting what they want and we're all getting money and rich, and then things collapse and we turn to desperation and crime, and like it feels very of a piece with those type of movies.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other stuff going on here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's what you're exactly right. Part of it is like, okay, we're going to sort of glorify and wallow in the seediness of all of this and basically rubberneck at these people and the parts of their lives that are sort of aspirational in certain ways, but then also the parts of their lives that are grotesque and self-destructive. And that's there for entertainment value, similar to a lot of mob movies. I agree, where it's like we're sort of going to half glorify, half condemn these mobsters, and 95% of the time you walk away from the movie more remembering the parts where you glorified the mobsters. Interestingly, but yeah, there's also a lot of heart in this movie. There's I will say, like, one way that it's structurally different from Goodfellas is it really kind of ends on more of a high note. You see the characters start out in a high place, and then the horrible tragedy that is the 1980s begins.
Yeah, fucking 80s, man.
Yeah, nothing good came out of the 80s, Scott. And everything goes to shit for them. But then it's like, for a change, it seems like I say that because like so many movies are just like, we're gonna make you really sad about humanity. Like they basically end in a sort of Requiem for a Dream fashion. And this time it was like we were heading in the Requiem for a Dream direction. And then all of the characters like slap themselves in the face and they're like, no, we're not gonna do it. We're gonna get back on track. We were gonna realize that we were on the wrong track. We're gonna regroup with our found family and we're gonna start up again. And yeah, the world is different now. It's not exactly the same as it was when we were all young and innocent, but we're more mature now and we can handle, and that's like just an intrinsically more of an uplifting way to end the movie, even though there is a lot of kind of darkness in the middle of it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I think it's definitely a happier note than Jesus Requiem for a Dream. But I mean, I do think like it's really like I find the final scene so intriguing to this movie. Like, first of all, I love the choice to make it so the entire movie we're talking about Dirk's giant penis, and everyone is kind of enamored and stunned and blown away by this giant dick. And the movie holds that from us for the entire length of the movie, we do not get to see this thing until the very final moments of the film, where we finally get to see this prosthetic that Mark Wahlberg whips out of his pants. And I feel like by the end of the movie, like I really love every time he takes it out, Paul Thomas Anderson zooms in on someone's face to react on it. You know, we see the Colonel's face. He's got that smile on it. His face. We've got see William H. Macy looks like stunned, and so the cameraman looks stunned, and Julianne Moore. Everyone seems impressed by this thing, and I don't know. Maybe this is just me. By the time he takes it out at the end of the movie, it's just like, oh, that's just a dick. Like it's a big dick, sure, but that's just a dick.
Yeah.
And I think that is in line with like the way this movie treats sex, which is just like so matter of factly. Like it's a business, it's a commodity. It's like there's nothing, there's no part in this movie that sex is like an expression of romance or love or anything.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And it's always shot in a way that's sort of gross and unappealing. Almost uniformly. I wouldn't say uniformly, but like almost every scene where sex is, or nudity is actually depicted, it's meant to be. You're just so uncomfortable with like you're both uncomfortable with what's happening in the scene, and also you're generally like paying more attention to the dynamics of what's happening between characters and why these things are happening, and like it keeps you distracted with the plot. Which I guess is a funny commentary on porn movies that have plot as a perfunctory element to get to the sex, right?
Yeah, well, and that's the part of the movie that, like, you know, you said the movie has a much more hopeful ending, but like that Jack's dream of a porn movie in which people care about the story is dead. Like the videotape industry takes what was already like a pretty commodified industry, and then like we see it, like they're just churning out tapes like crazy, just like churning these things out. Nobody cares. You just want to see people have sex, jerk off, and then turn the TV off, and that's all you want. And so like this kind of golden age, if you could call it that, of pornography that was the 1970s is just gone and dead, and everyone has kind of shifted into a new role. And like, even I just feel like, I don't know, I'm still like the Dirk moment at the end of the movie, like, are we supposed to feel good for him? I don't know.
I'm not sure, right? And that's one of the things that I mean when I say I don't quite know what to do with it. I don't quite know. So, you know, on the one hand, yeah, it's obviously a movie about pornography and the porn industry in the late 70s and early 80s. But I can't help but also just see it as a much broader comment on the arc of history, maybe during that period of time, maybe even more broadly than just talking about that period of time. And talking about how, you know, things, you can almost pick any like domain of art, or you can even pick like a person's life and say that this is about like a person's life, where they start out innocent and idealistic and ambitious, and there's no shame to what you're doing, right? The idea, all these characters in this movie, they start out in the movie starts out where everyone just has this wide-eyed open-heartedness, and the fact that they're doing pornography to them carries no shame at all. It's like, why would it even? It takes so long into the movie before you actually see like, oh, you're not going to be able to get a loan for your business because of your history in pornography. Oh, you're not going to be able to get any kind of job. You're not going to be able to see your kid because of your history in pornography. And, you know, it's basically this gradual ripping away of innocence and hopefulness and optimism. Yeah. And like replacing that with guilt / societal shame, which is a different thing, really. I think, you know, the societal shame sort of creates the guilt. And, you know, then you become marginalized and then you start making terrible choices and then you start doing drugs and and the innocence is ripped away. And then maybe there's like a full coming of age arc here where, you go through that rough period, you gain some wisdom and life experience, and then you learn what not to do, and then you try to sort of recover some part of what you liked about this art or whatever it was in the first place. So maybe I should have started out saying this, but one lens I was looking at this is just like, it's not just about porn movies, it's about movies. It's about wanting to make movies, and I think more broadly making art, I think, but like the most direct connection is the loss of innocence of an artist, and then regaining some kind of more conception of how to be an artist.
Yeah, and I think it is intentionally a movie about, like the secret world that's just off the streets of Hollywood. Like Hollywood is this place of film and dreams, and there's also this industry that exists there, and no one ever talks about it. But the people in that industry, don't they want the same things that the people in the other industry that we glorify and love want? Aren't they the same people with the same dreams and the same hope for future success? Like, I think we're not only are we making a comparison of just the struggle to create art, but also like we're directly comparing the people that exist under both of these things. Because the movie treats them just like people the entire time. They're people that this could be a gangster movie. This could be a musical biopic. This could be any story about someone who achieves great success early on, allows it to get to their head, and it eventually destroys them. It just so happens it's in the porn industry.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It actually almost has the structure of a musical biopic. That's a great connection, actually. I mean, if anything, it may connect better to the musical biopic structure than it does to the gangster movie structure. That's great. Yeah. I never thought about that. But that, I think that just,
especially when he goes off on his own to make his own album.
Yeah.
It's the thing is, like, Mark Wahlberg can sing. Like he's freaking Marky Mark, man. He's not the greatest singer in the world, but I just like acting those scenes where you're intentionally singing off key. Incredible.
Yeah. So just for a second here, let's talk about how funny the movie is.
Yes, so funny.
It's very funny. It's I'm starting to kind of key into the Paul Thomas Anderson style of humor, where it's kind of absurd. Like the humor comes from the character's lack of self-awareness and how they have created an absurd situation for themselves, which they then double down on. And then I think a lot of it is just the one actor whose name I know, but I'm forgetting right now.
Which one? I mean, it could John C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly. I think. I mean, there's a lot of humor in the movie, but I think John C. Reilly is very often just like the literal comic relief character. Like almost everything involving John C. Reilly in this movie is funny, and it's from the moment he's introduced and he makes the margaritas, and he's showing off.
How much there's no way he squats 350, right?
No,
like there's just 0% chance.
Certainly not. And that's why Marky Mark doesn't believe him, which is why he's like, yeah, so now we're going to say how much we bench at the same time, because I don't believe you.
Yeah, he's so good in this movie. He's so funny. I love that initial scene where they meet, and it starts with this competition that quickly turns into them being best friends, and continues so throughout the movie. And then, of course, Philip Seymour Hoffman playing Scotty, which I just want to point out that like every time there's a Scott in a movie, they're like this.
Yeah.
They're this character. The cool character in the movie is never the character with my name, ever. I do love Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance in this movie, though. I really do.
Yeah.
I like just... he's the type of actor that's going to take roles like this, right? Where it's just like this guy, he is just kind of on the outside of everything, but he's in love with it, and he's just there and never really actively involved in what's going on, but it's such a weird, wonderful performance from Philip Seymour Hoffman. Like I just like who would do a role like this that isn't him, you know?
I know. Yeah. Gosh, that's a great point. That's a really interesting character. This is what I mean about not quite knowing what to do with the movie, because like his character and his performance, it's like, you know, top level performance. It's Philip Seymour Hoffman, who always brings a top level performance, but I'm like, I don't know how that fits. I guess maybe it fits in the sense of you're seeing innocence lost, right? You're seeing this guy who seems so hopeful and optimistic, and like he's this cheerful presence. He kind of seems like he seems dumb, but I think that's because he's like just trying to be positive. And then you kind of see that character take this darker turn when he gets rejected by Marky Mark. But then none of this is a criticism, right? It's like I guess one way to say it is PTA just likes to make these movies that have a lot of characters. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of moments that are really dramatically effective moments that stick with you, and this is all layered in together in a way where it just makes it hard for me, at least, to like pick one little piece of it, like pick one little thread and be like, what he's doing with this thread is this particular thing. It's like, no, it's all threaded together. It's all part of it. So,
yeah, I mean, I do think that, like, you know, you look at this cast of characters that were just kind of going. I mean, this is a story about Dirk Diggler, of course, but it's also a story about all of these people.
Yeah,
it's it's like these are this kind of weird little family, and that's the end of the movie. Is they're all in the house together. They're all living together. They're all still together at the end of this whole thing, and it's this group of people that found each other in this industry that, you know, people don't talk about a lot, that they're not treated like humans. They're just rejected by society. They're on the fringes of society, and they've all found each other, and they found some semblance of happiness. And Burt Reynolds is the dad, and Julianne Moore is the mom. And yeah, you apparently have sex with your mom on camera sometimes, but, you know, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. And so, yeah, I mean, like, this idea that they've all struggled and gone through things, and yet the end of the movie, the positive part of the movie that you said is that they're still together. They found each other, and Scotty's part of that, right? He's there at the end still. He's part of the family, even if he's not like the center of the family. He's on the outskirts a little bit. He is part of the family. Yeah,
and he accepted that his role in this wasn't going to be what he thought it or what he would have wanted it to be, but he's able to be okay with that.
Yeah. And same thing with I think Don Cheadle's character Buck is like, he's really funny too, right? You know, John C. Reilly is like definitely the comedic center of the film, but I really like Buck. I like Buck's transition as he's desperately searching for his look and who he is.
Yeah.
And he never really finds it. Like, even at the end of the movie, he's just trying a new one now.
Yeah. I think
he's got his video store, or his speaker store.
Yeah, he started a family. He's got his speaker store. He's moving forward in life. I mean, he did have to. God, okay, like that's the thing is you can't. I can't go a minute without like tripping over something where I'm like, I don't know what to do with. So, you know, actually, that's not true. I kind of do know what to do with it. Never mind. So, just the fact that he's loaded down by this history with the porn industry, and he can't escape it. He's desperately trying to escape it. It's funny. I had forgotten, actually. So I had seen this movie before, but I forgot like what happens toward the end. And when he went into the the cafe, the donut shop, and he's, you know, the camera is following him as he picks up the donuts. I'm like, you know, have like glimmers of memory, and I'm like, oh, he's going to get killed here.
Yeah. That's what I thought too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like so sure that was going to happen, because I was like, I also just, I remembered the depressing parts of the movie more. And so I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to die and everybody's going to die, and it's going to be horrible.
For some reason, I was really convinced Scotty died. I don't know why, but that was in my head the whole time that Scotty's gonna die.
Yeah, it's funny because I know that I saw the ending, the last scene with the giant penis, but I thought I remembered the scene where the homophobes beat up Mark Wahlberg, and I for some reason was like, does he die here? I think he dies here, and then he didn't, obviously. The point is, he can't. So Don Cheadle's character can't escape from the stigma of the porn industry, and then this horribly violent, awful thing happens, and it's so interesting because he's wearing this like white outfit, right?
Yeah, he's clean. He's clean and pure.
He's clean and pure, and he doesn't understand why he's being judged for this thing that is like not actually bad in his mind. Yeah, and then he's splattered in the blood, and he sees the money, and he takes the money, and then that gives him a new start. And there's no downside to that, right? It's just interesting because I feel like most movies would be like, oh, you shouldn't take in the money. And it's like, no, he took the money and he started a new life, and it was great. And he had this bloody baptism and rebirth, and it's fine now. And it's like, what is it? What are we saying with all that exactly?
Yeah, I mean, maybe like you got to get your hands dirty, and like this image of yourself as this pure, kind of unblemished person, is not a true one. You're not. And like the idea that I'm not a pornographer, I'm an actor, is the thing he insisted with the bank teller, is like, or the loan manager at the bank is like, no, I'm like, why do you keep saying pornography? Don't say pornography. And it's like, well, Buck, I mean, you fucked people on camera for money. Well, like how else do you want to explain it? I'm an actor. I do think like he feels like he's constantly a character trying to define himself. And I think a lot of what he defines himself by is what he does. And like his quest is he wants to own this speaker store. Like he seems so much more passionate in the film about hi-fi equipment and speakers and being a salesman and doing all these things. And it just seems like the porn is just like a thing to do for money while he's working on his goal. And so it does make sense that like what you said is perfect, that like he sees himself in a way that he is so confused by why a person would look at him and say, but you're a pornographer.
Yeah.
Because he just doesn't see that at all. He's like, no, I'm a cowboy, or I'm a whatever the fuck he was wearing in the early 80s too.
Yeah.
It's so I love it actually.
Yeah.
The more I think about it.
He doesn't identify with it. I mean, it's interesting I'm not going to go through each character one by one, but it's sort of interesting to think how each character has their own unique relationship with this industry that they're all part of, where for Mark Wahlberg's character, it's like this is him getting to be special. He believes that there's everyone has their special thing in life, and this is his special thing. And so for him, there's no negativity associated with it, because it's like, this is I finally get to express my reason for being here on Earth. Burt Reynolds, the Colonel, he is like a highbrow artist in his own mind, and this is his, he's Picasso, and this is his canvas, where he's going to express himself, realize his vision, and sort of build a little found family for himself while he does it. And again, you could kind of go through all of them. They're all getting something unique and very personal out of this, and none of them just like see themselves as just like, oh yeah, I do porn. That's my identity, Mm-hmm. So this is, I guess, a different topic, but I wanted to touch on it at some point. So like, I feel like the movie, it's not that the movie doesn't moralize ever, but the movie seems to draw some very clear distinctions between like acceptable and unacceptable or good and bad. Where so like Burt Reynolds' character is typically depicted in a way that's positive.
Sure.
And like, he's kind of a manly ideal. He's kind of he seems to have the right ideas, in contrast to, when Mark Wahlberg starts doing cocaine, it's like he's falling short of the ideal that is sort of being set by Burt Reynolds. And then Burt Reynolds, he goes and he talks to the guy who's funding them in jail. The Colonel. That I know I messed that up a second ago. Those are two different characters. Good. But anyway, he goes and talks to the Colonel, and the Colonel is doing child porn. And this is obviously totally beyond the pale for Burt Reynolds. He's appalled by this, right?
Yeah.
And so the point, that's kind of what I'm getting at, with like drawing lines where it's like there's the movie, in my mind, the movie is saying there's like nothing wrong with what Burt Reynolds is doing, and there's and then what the Colonel's doing is obviously awful. And I'm like, is the movie, is this kind of a depiction, is not an endorsement thing and I'm misreading it, or is the movie actually kind of wanting us to feel that way? And part of the reason I say it is like, I think like the porn industry is like super exploitative and kind of preys on like damaged people. So
yeah.
So I don't actually think it's like true that Burt Reynolds' character is like, a paragon of virtue. But I think that's kind of the lens the movie wants us to take, though.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think the act of having sex on camera for money and the enjoyment of others is something that the movie is not interested in moralizing about. But that doesn't mean the things surrounding the industry aren't things that that the movie has a problem with. Because I agree with you. Like, the depiction of Burt Reynolds is generally favorable. He's the father figure of everyone there. I also think like we never see him have sex, by the way. You would think in an industry of sex that the kind of godfather of the industry would just be sleeping with everyone, but he seems utterly uninterested in sex outside of the commodity of it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like, it is the way in which he recruits Mark Wahlberg. Like, he's a 17-year-old kid that he finds just washing dishes at a club and then brings into this world. And then we get to see him do it again with another young kid, Johnny, I think his name is. And like, we see him feed the same lines to Johnny that he fed to Eddie, aka Dirk. So like, it just seems like this is a thing he does, that like he finds a new kid, he brings him in, and then they eventually get eaten up by the industry and spit out, and then he finds another one. And it does. We joked about it in the opening of this of the episode, but like the line that he tells to this 17-year-old kid is, "There's something wonderful in those pants just waiting to get out." And like, it's like, dude, that's
yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
No. I mean, it's funny. I think it's just like, it's funny because it's actually really hard to talk about this, because it's always hard to talk about the moral stance that a movie is making without yourself staking some kind of moral stance by implication.
Yeah.
And I actually just don't find it interesting to like talk about my moral stance.
How do you feel about pornography, Matt?
Right. It's just like, look, that's not why we're here, but it is hard to like, I think what I'm trying to say is just the movie is portraying this guy as just being so goddamn cool. And like, we never really see it.
It's Burt fucking Reynolds.
Yeah, exactly. It's Burt Reynolds. And I'd say that the only moment when he is anything but cool is maybe like kind of the low point of the film, when everyone is taking their licks and he kind of like shoves Mark Wahlberg, and you see him doing some things that are kind of compromising his integrity as an artist a bit, but But then he bounces back.
Stroll around in a limo and pick up random men to sleep.
Yeah. No,
what a terrible idea for porn.
that is terrible. That's definitely a low point for everyone. I don't know. I don't know why I'm stuck on this topic. It's just like, it's interesting to me that I guess when you take on a subject that is going to be sort of a volatile subject because everyone has really strong opinions about the subject. I'm talking about porn as the subject here. And then you've got to make some pretty clear choices about how you're going to treat it.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, okay, so standing back from it, it's like, okay, well, it's very boring to just make a movie where you moralize about how porn is bad.
Yeah.
But it also strikes me as infantile to not acknowledge that it's bad in many ways. And I think the movie actually does a pretty good job, like that balancing it, because we see a lot of the negative impacts that it has on these characters. And like you said, the things that are sort of orbiting around them and associated with this industry are bad for them, and the drug culture and violence.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, if this movie moralizes about one thing, it's drug use, right? It's like it's very clear. This is a drugs are very bad for you movie.
Yeah.
Do not do drugs, people. Do not do cocaine, everyone. Let's take that message to heart.
I mean, we were sort of half joking earlier, but like if there hadn't been cocaine, then I feel like all of the downward spiral parts of the movie just like wouldn't have happened, because it was causally like creating those problems for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's partially true. I mean, I think we see like the little documentary that Amber puts together about Dirk, like, shows you that, I mean, maybe we could blame the cocaine for it. He's certainly using cocaine by that point, but like he's already kind of his head's getting a little too big for his body at that point.
That's true.
He thinks he's the greatest person that has ever existed on the planet.
Yeah.
To the point where you're already kind of seeing the conflict lines like between him and Burt Reynolds, with the I do my own blocking, and Burt's like, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. So I mean, like, I think the cocaine is like a catalyst for sure.
Yeah.
And it becomes that for every, like, not every character, but almost every character. We have the scene where Julianne Moore and Heather Graham are just fucking going to town.
Yeah.
on that coke, just like over and over and over again.
Right. I think, on second thought, I think the coke is a metaphor for consequences, and the inflection point of the movie is the inflection point where consequences come into play, because the first half-ish of the movie is like a sort of Edenic wonderland where, and by Edenic, I'm not just randomly using the word. I'm using it in the sense of like Adam and Eve didn't know they were naked. They didn't know that there was anything sinful or even particularly meaningful about being naked or sexuality. They were, sort of animals in that way. Mm-hmm. And then the fall from Eden involved them realizing like, oh no, I'm naked. This is shameful and I have to cover myself. And prior to the inflection point, which is New Year's, where and I think this is punctuated so perfectly here, because you have William H. Macy's character who has been sort of the butt of the joke for the first half of the movie, where he just seems annoyed and kind of angry, but angry in a way where you're kind of laughing at him because his wife is constantly having sex with everyone all the time. And to the extent that it definitely seems unhealthy that she's doing this, it's like why what is motivating a person to behave this way, right? And he's it's wearing on him, and it's only at that New Year's party he sees it, and then we have our I think it's like there's three big wonders in this movie. There's the one that opens the movie. There's the one where we follow him as he goes out to his car to get the gun, and then comes back and shoots his wife and the man and then himself, and then there's the one at the end of the movie. And this is where the consequences enter, because the consequence of the promiscuity on his wife's part was like you have finally exceeded his ability to pretend that he doesn't care about this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how a lot of like that's kind of the shape of a lot of the things in the second part of the movie, where things that seemed okay are suddenly not okay anymore. Society starts to push back, and the consequences of their lifestyle start to bite them in the ass, just in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like porn was like an accepted, like loved industry in the 70s either, but I do think it's highlighting this very weird, interesting shift in the 90s or in the 80s about a lot of things, and I think punctuated by the move of porn to videotape, which, by the way, I think it's very weird that for a very long time people collectively went to a movie theater and jerked off in front of each other.
Uh-huh.
That's just a thing where I'm like, that's weird. We really?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's no other way to do it. I guess.
Yeah. Just no other way.
But videotape changes that pretty dramatically, and I love William H. Macy's character as the catalyst for that, because like you're absolutely right. It is this perfect 3-beat actually, where the first 2 beats of it are played strictly for laughs. Like, it's funny. It helps that he's William H. Macy. And he plays it as like, oh shucks, look at it, look at this again, and the movie's laughing at him. People are laughing at him. The movie's laughing at him. It's funny. It's supposed to be funny, and then it doesn't stop being funny until he pulls out a gun, and then we're like, oh,
yeah. This wasn't funny to him.
Yeah. I guess we weren't supposed to be laughing at that. And then, that is the shift. That is 1980, New Year's 1980. And then everything shifts from there.
Yeah.
So I love that as this consequence of actions being thrown in there. Cause like the depiction of, cause we see Amber, the Julianne Moore character, she's using drugs from the beginning of the movie, right?
Right.
One of the first scenes of her is her snorting a line when they get home from the club, but like the depiction of drugs in the 70s versus the depiction of drugs in the 80s is very different. It's like casual use just for fun at parties type thing, and then suddenly in the 80s it becomes an addiction and it's destroying everyone who's doing it.
I think there's like, again, this is that like innocence pipeline to cynicism to maturity. It's funny. I you and I weren't alive in the 60s or the 70s and barely remember the 80s, so we're forced to kind of talk in generalities that we absorb from the culture. But what I'm getting at though is like there's this idea that the 60s are this era of completely unshackling ourselves from sexual morality, and it's all about free love, and we're completely dismantling all of our preconceptions about what sex is and what its role is in our lives. Free love for everyone, and I can imagine that like coming out of this the free love 60s was a sort of like enlightened attitude of like, oh, we're all going to porn is actually great if you think about it, because everyone should be free to do whatever they want sexually. It's actually empowering. It's actually empowering to be doing porn. And, that's probably an attitude that makes a lot of sense when you're coming out of the 60s. And then it takes time for the consequences of those lifestyles to sort of ferment into what we then see in the 80s, which isn't helped, I think, by the advent of like, it's not that there weren't STDs in the 70s, but like AIDS comes onto the scene in the 80s and changes everything even more.
Definitely. I mean, like I was watching the trailer for this movie right before we started recording, because I pulled the trailer to cut into the episode, and one of the like the lines of it's a 90s movie, right? So you have 90s trailer guy talking over the trailer. That's how trailers worked. And one of the lines is, when sex was safe. And it's like, I mean, that's, people weren't thinking about that kind of thing. They just weren't. Yeah. There were some STDs, sure. But like,
they weren't going to
very
kill
few
you.
Of them
generally
were going to kill you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it is this fundamental shift, and yeah, I love that as the shift from the 70s to 80s was certainly this. It's not like there weren't problems in the 70s. Obviously, there was a lot of disillusion with America in the 70s. But that like turned into this the Reagan 80s, this very like hard conservative swing that everything that we claimed most important was now suddenly verboten. Like, and again, it's not as if there wasn't a stigma against pornography in the 70s. Like, I don't want to say that, but definitely the Reagan 80s was wildly different in that regard, for sure.
Yeah, it's really hard to talk about history, especially history we didn't live, because like kind of everything is always happening all the time. Like the 80s were both, as you say, a crackdown on certain types of morality, but at the same time, the 80s are kind of known for libertinism in different ways, where it's like, you know, coke fueled parties on the whole like Wall Street thing. Anyway, it's like we're always, American culture for like the last 100 years has been this, but probably more than 100 years, probably the whole of American history really has been this like tension between the sort of like puritanical streak that we all sort of carry onward from the founding, from the literal Puritans who founded the country, or colonized the country, however you want to put it, and then like the sort of frontier attitude of like, we're just gonna do what's practical. We don't have time for these moralizing biddies. We're gonna do what we want, and then like that's kind of the story of America uniquely. I think.
I think you're right. I also think these things don't break at like decade lines. It's just when we look back at them, we're like generally like, I mean, it's very fun that the movie can operate in literally like everything's perfect and great until the second before it turns 1980, and then it all goes in the shit immediately because it's the 80s now. But that's not how time and history actually works.
I mean, it's funny. Like that's like the dark Paul Thomas Anderson humor that I'm really starting to enjoy and appreciate. Is like, it is in and of itself funny that we were laughing at William H. Macy's character, and then the horrible, like the most horribly violent thing in the movie is punctuates the moment where we just slam on the 1980 title card, and it's like, oh, I get it. Like it's a good joke.
Yep. And then they got a picture of him in the house at the end. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Like a painting of him.
Yeah, the painting of him. Yeah, like close to where he shot himself.
Yeah, I think it's in the exact spot he shot himself.
Which
it's perfect.
It is perfect. I mean, thinking of it like from a directing point of view, it's like as we're walking through the house and everyone is happy and everything is great, you're suddenly reminded, like, oh yeah, there was that moment earlier in the movie when that guy shot himself right here in this house, and it puts a little damper on everything.
Yeah, a little bit. And I mean, like, I don't know how well Julianne Moore's doing, but she doesn't have her kid. She's like lost her son. Roller Girl seems to be doing okay. Can we just like the absurdity of Roller Girl is one of my favorite things about this movie, because it just treats it so matter of factly. Like, she just doesn't take off her skates.
Yeah, it's Roller Girl. Yeah,
and I watched this movie with my wife who had never seen it, and she's just like, well, she takes them off when she goes to bed, right? And I was like, Elise, no.
Yeah, never.
She never takes her skates off.
Yeah. She take them off when she showers? I don't know. Probably not.
I mean, we never get to see that, and that's intentional, right? Like like the fantasy of Roller Girl, a character named after the thing that they wear, is that she will never take them off. And like, there was part of me, like the very traditional like storytelling movie part of me is like, I bet at the end of this movie, Roller Girl's transition to maturity will be symbolized by her taking off the roller skates. But no, That doesn't happen. The final scene of the movie, she's roller skating around.
Yeah.
Like there's that one scene where she's in school, obviously trying to get her GED, right? And I was like, I wonder if we're gonna like cut to her feet and see that she's not wearing the roller skates anymore. But we intentionally don't do that.
Well, so we do two things with her identity, I would say, so one of them is that when they're in the limo, the guy says her name, her real name, which may not be the only time we hear her name, but like in that moment, like that's like the last thing she wants to hear, because it strips away her identity, right? Her identity is Roller Girl. And then also, I guess like right after that moment, she, uses her roller skates as a weapon to potentially kill this man.
Yes.
So,
for disrespecting her.
Yeah, for disrespecting her, which is really interesting.
Yep. Yeah. What were we talking about before we got on the Roller Girl kick? I can't remember. I just was reminded that Roller Girl exists. What I wanted to talk about was the sequence near the end where they attempt to sell a key of baking soda to a drug dealer.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's a great sequence. Like that whole sequence is just so good.
Yeah.
And it's Alfred Molina shows up.
Yeah.
As the crazy dancing drug dealer and
on so much coke. Yeah.
Yeah. I like all of that works really, really well for me. I think Paul Thomas Anderson shoots the shit out of it too. Cause it's maximal stress.
Yeah.
It's maximal uncertainty. You just don't know how things are going to go. Like we see it's just a terrible idea in the first place when you're introduced to what their plan is. And I mean, my favorite part of it is like, well, what if they test it? And Thomas Jane is just like, well, they're not going to test it.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh, that's what we're hinging this whole thing on. And they make the deal and then they're not leaving. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing here? Get out of there. And I don't know. So the one thing I really wanted to ask you about is Dirk's moment where he's sitting there and then like he gets this look on his face. It's really fascinating look on his face where he gets like hard focused on something for a brief moment and his like face tightens up and then that moment passes and he like goes slack a little bit again and then that's like, okay, we're getting out of here moment. Like what was that?
Yeah, I was definitely thinking about that and I had my interpretation, which is simply he is having a moment of clarity. He is sitting there with this music blasting and this guy throwing firecrackers, and he is, I'm freely projecting here, but I'm thinking that he's thinking, if I make it out of here alive, I'm going to make some changes because this has gotten out of hand. And then that's what happens. So I feel like that's kind of a textually supported belief to some degree that like this is his low point. Him being here is so far from any life that he wanted for himself, and he really is this like idealistic kid. He's this upbeat, like kind of just dispositionally happy and open-hearted guy actually. And he's become so dark in this part of the movie that you kind of lose sight of that for a minute, but
yeah,
I think that's him kind of returning to himself. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something there. Let's remember he's 23 by this point because he's 17 in 1977. It's 83 now, so he's 24 at best. He's still basically a kid, and yeah, I mean, like he already like got his ass kicked by those homophobes. And they're now doing this stupid plan, and he's finding himself sitting on a couch with these people waiting to be busted, watching this coked out idiot dance around. And yeah, I love the kid with the firecrackers is just like the perfect punctuation on the scene where every few seconds our characters flinch because another firecracker goes off.
Uh-huh.
And it just keeps happening. It just like never stops.
Yeah. That's great.
And then he gets this look on his face, and then everything goes to shit from there. I love Mark Wahlberg, man. Like Mark Wahlberg can act.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Mark Wahlberg so many times is he's the type of actor that will phone it in at times. But when he's really committed to something, I think he just does a fantastic job. And I think he's really committed to this role. I think he nails this. This is such a good performance. This and The Happening, I think, are the two great Mark Wahlberg performances.
Yeah, I think The Departed is one that I always think of.
Yeah, I was joking, Matt.
Well, I couldn't tell if you're joking because
I do love him in The Happening. Yes, I do.
Right. My sense of your opinion on The Happening is that the weird shit he's doing in The Happening is intentional and thus brilliant.
It is.
Yeah,
it's all intentional. Yes,
that's what I thought you would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. He's great. He's a solid actor. I mean, I think this might be my single favorite performance of his, though.
Oh yeah, hands down. I think I can't think of. I mean, he's very funny in other movies. Like I really liked him, and I really like him as a comedian. Like he's good in Ted, and he's good in The Other Guys. And it's not like he's not a comedian in this. Like he's got a lot of funny stuff in this. But I think he plays that kind of hopeful innocence you're talking about perfectly. But also to the point where when he starts to get the little pig-headed version of himself, like that's also very believable.
Yeah.
The scene where he's like giving the tour of his apartment and then like showing like the clothes, like that's also just really great stuff because he's like such a child. You can tell like he's such a child and yet he's so happy with all the stuff that he's gotten. Look at all the stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's another intentional, hilarious John C. Reilly moment is like he's looking at these boots and he goes, "Are those lizard?" And he's like, "No, they're Italian." This is great.
Yeah.
And like I just like it really sunk home to me when he's like giving the tour of his room and all his stuff and everything. It's like, oh, you're a kid. You're just a kid.
Yeah, especially when we meet him. I think one of the things that really kind of puts us on his side earlier in the movie is seeing his terrible relationship with his horrible mom.
Oh, his mom is awful. Yeah. This is why he gloms onto Julianne Moore so quickly, right? Because she's desperate for parents that aren't the worst.
Yeah, some kind of positive role model. Yeah, it's interesting. I was developing a thesis as I was watching the movie along the lines of like the movie's very harsh on traditional marriage, where it seems like every traditional marriage in the movie is terrible. So the ones we see is like him, Mark Wahlberg's parents, seems like a terrible marriage. Julianne Moore and her husband were married and are now divorced and in a horrible custody battle over their son, which she has lost. I feel like there was a third one that I'm spacing on now. But basically, it was like anytime you had a married, William H. Macy and his wife.
Yeah,
which explicitly it's his wife, not his girlfriend. And I like that. That to me felt like a pattern where it's like, well, the whole idea, the pattern to me is like, is the movie sort of rebuking this notion of having this institution at all, where it's like, yeah, you take a man and a woman and you lock them together, and like they're just the movie's almost seeming to say like they're both going to be miserable and it's going to end up in some terrible situation, which is interesting because like we've already talked about this, but it's like, okay, so the alternative is this like free love thing that has all these other negative consequences associated with it. So maybe there's no clear cut, just like this is the answer. The movie, I don't think the movie's offering us an answer. I'm pretty sure it's not just saying like the answer is live this way. It's just like, no, it's really hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think the comparing it to Hard Eight, like the one marriage we see in Hard Eight is also kind of absurd, right? It is this rushed one-day marriage. between two people, and yet I don't know. Do we leave that movie hopeful about that marriage? I can't decide. I don't think so.
I think right. I think it's. I can imagine like people walking out of that movie having very different feelings about it. You know, I feel a lot of skepticism about it, but also there's part of you that's just like, I hope they figure it out somehow. I don't think they're going to, but I hope they do somehow. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, and the only other marriage that exists in this movie is Becky Barnett, the black woman who gets married, right? And they leave the industry, right? They get married and they move away.
Yeah.
And they're gone essentially. And it seems like that's a healthy marriage. I don't know. We don't really get too much of it to make a conclusion on that, but
yeah. I mean, part of me is, now that you've pointed out the connection to the previous movie, I'm going to kind of be paying attention as we go forward. Like, what are Paul Thomas Anderson's attitudes about marriage, and do they change in 2001? I don't know. Yeah, but that's when he got with Maya Rudolph, who is his current partner. So
yeah, I mean, not to make it all specifically about Paul Thomas Anderson's personal life, but I think the other thing is like found family versus your relationship with your, birth family. I know, like, one thing I read is that someone asked specifically if Dirk's relationship with his mother was based on anything in Paul's real life, and he refused to answer, and then later told, I think he was told on Mark Maron's podcast, was like, yeah, not too long ago, I literally like went to my mom's house and like dropped on my knees and cried and asked for forgiveness for treating her the way I did. So I think it's safe to say he has a complicated relationship with his mother, and maybe that is reflected partially in Dirk's relationship with his mom and partially in how Anderson thinks about marriage and family and like traditional marriage and traditional family and these things. And so far in these movies we've seen, I think generally, like, we've seen in these movies people on the outskirts of society, right? Like, these are, professional gamblers and crooks in the first movie, and then the porn industry, which is on the fringes of the world. These are like not people that live life like you and I do, certainly.
Yeah.
So far. So yeah, those are things to definitely think about and consider and see, is that a trend that continues, and how much it continues, and if it changes over the course of his life and career. Yeah,
I think that's a good point.
Did you know that Burt Reynolds hates this movie, or hated? He's passed now.
No, did not.
He regretted being in this movie. He did not like it. He was mad at his agent for talking him into doing it, and he refused to campaign for it, which he was nominated for the Academy Award. He did not win the Academy Award. And a lot of people say part of the reason why he did not win is he distanced himself from the movie very early in the campaigning process. He did not really do any campaigning to win the award because he didn't like it.
That's somehow not surprising. I mean, he strikes me as a sort of very like conservative man of his era. I don't know if that's true. I actually have no idea. I know nothing about Burt Reynolds as a person, so that could be totally.
Yeah, the entirety of my knowledge of Burt Reynolds is based on his persona, his films. So yeah, I agree with you.
Right.
That is the vibe I got as well. But who knows?
Yeah, right. All I know is, he looks a lot like Tom Selleck. That's all I know.
I love the black and gray mixture in this movie in particular. It was just like a perfect time in Burt's salt and pepper transition.
Yes.
He looks really good. He looks really good.
He is the perfect age for Burt Reynolds to be. I agree.
Yes. I can't believe he doesn't like this movie. Like, he's so good in it. He really is fantastic in it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's baffling to me. I mean, I wonder if maybe part of his discomfort with the material is in some sense what makes him good in this role in some like backwards way, where it's like, so let me put it this way, like the scene when, he first brings Dirk and Roller Girl to his house, and these two underage people have sex on the couch in front of him while he watches and smokes a cigar.
Yeah.
Part of that, like part of the reason why that scene works the way it does is that he's not getting anything out of it.
Yeah, he's not watching them have sex because he wants to like get off.
Right.
Like, that's like he is the only person in the porn industry that does not want to watch sex for the pleasure of it.
Right. It's like he's enjoying it as if he was enjoying like a performance of a Bach duet.
Yes.
He's like, that's the like expression that he has on his face. He's not a lecherous horn dog who's like, greedily which is really interesting, and maybe again part of what makes that work is that Burt Reynolds is refusing to connect with the material on that sexual level because he finds it uncomfortable.
I'm so glad you said this, because actually, like, what I read was that Paul Thomas Anderson like kept pestering him to do the role, and he kept saying like, no, I am not interested. I hate this part. I don't want to be in a movie that promotes the porn industry, and I don't want to do it. And what Paul Thomas Anderson said to him was, carry that attitude with you into the role and you'll win an Oscar.
Oh, that's awesome.
Exactly what he said to him. And he was nominated for the Oscar. So
that's hilarious.
He did fire his agent that like suggested he do this movie, which is very funny.
Gosh. That's so weird. I mean, yeah.
I think he just really did not want to be associated with the porn industry, and like he's playing like the fucking godfather of the porn industry in this. So yeah.
I mean, I think for a certain generation and a certain age bracket, like probably it's hard to kind of show your face around your friends when it's like, what are you working on, Tommy? And it's nothing. It's not important.
Can we talk about how much that's changed though? Like, without getting into like our personal moral opinions on pornography, like the porn industry is so fundamentally different now. I mean, not only than it was then, but then it was like freaking 10 years ago. Like we talked about this when we talked about Anora, right? That just like, it is just with the addition of these subscription service pornographers, like it's just so different.
Yeah. Oh, it's been thoroughly democratized.
Yeah.
There are no Burt Reynolds characters at all in this scene anymore, if there ever were.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think there are still like these giant, like a lot of these, the biggest OnlyFans people like are hiring like a management company to like manage the day-to-day of it. Like they're just doing the filming, and like even like the supposed like personal interaction posts and things are written by just employees in a building that are just doing that on behalf of the women. So like, yes and no. I don't know. It's really fast. I don't know that much about it, honestly. Just what I've read in interesting articles about like the rise and supremacy of OnlyFans and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. So I guess there's always this layer of personality and artifice that gets wrapped around. That's an interesting point, right? Because Burt Reynolds' character wants there to be artistry to it. He wants it to be art, and part of the movie is saying like, no, people actually don't care about that. They just want to get off. And you're basically just creating like a product that allows them to do that, and nothing more. And maybe the amusing evolution with OnlyFans is like, no, even when you totally democratize this and totally change every detail about it, it still ends up looking weirdly similar, where there's this layer of narrative wrapping the sexual package, because it just turns out that humans need for human beings, the sexual product is not actually complete without the narrative wrapping paper.
Yes.
And that narrative can be the narrative that this OnlyFans model is pretending to be your girlfriend. It's just but that's still a narrative.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I just want to reiterate though, like nothing sounds more disgusting to me than a bunch of grown men sitting in their own splooge because they didn't want to get up because they're watching the story of the porn they just jerked off to. That's fucking disgusting.
And he's so excited about this. It's his dream as an artist.
It is his dream. Oh my goodness. All right. So I think that's all I had to say about Boogie Nights. Really enjoyed revisiting this movie. I think it was just a wonderful time, a fun movie. It is kind of remarkable that he goes from Hard Eight, which we really enjoyed, to this. Like, that is not complete overnight success, but that's pretty damn close.
Yeah. No, that's true. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So that is Boogie Nights. We will return with Paul Thomas Anderson in 1999, where he directs Magnolia. Ooh,
excited! Haven't seen this one.
Possibly the most lauded and acclaimed of Paul Thomas Anderson's film. That's tough to say. Actually, I don't know. It's a big one though. It's one of the last times Tom Cruise did art.
Yeah, I know that I've wanted to see this movie for years and years, so I'm happy for the excuse to finally watch it.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I can't wait.
Doof.
All right, Matt. Before we go though, let's talk about Xenomorphs.
Our favorite.
The Alien Earth trailer has dropped. It is a FX show that will be premiering on Hulu on August 12th. I have no idea how many episodes. I do know it was created by Noah Hawley, who you might know from Fargo, the television show Fargo, which was quite good. He also did the FX show Legion, which was kind of like a X-Men spinoff.
Oh yeah,
sort of. What'd you think of this trailer, Matt?
I thought it was kind of fun looking. I am a big fan of the android stuff in the Aliens franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like that's going to be a big part of the show. And they seem to be doing it in a way that is going to be kind of original, not quite something we've seen before.
Yeah, it looks like we're having an android be a body. We're doing a conscious transfer from a human being to an android's consciousness.
Yep, that does,
I believe, new.
That does seem to be what we're doing, and I do think that is new. I wonder what else we're doing with the androids. You know, it's a trailer. You're kind of we have to make assumptions here and there.
Yeah.
They sort of give us the shape of a premise, which is like a big spaceship that has retrieved, alien horrors from the outer darkness, has crashed on Earth. I feel so, maybe I'm just totally wrong, and maybe this is wishful thinking, but I feel like some of the sort of creepy alien imagery we see is not the xenomorph, and which might imply that it's like, oh, there's going to be like other scary alien things.
Yeah.
And that would be that to me actually got me excited. And I had to tamp down my excitement because I was like, well, you don't actually know that. That might be a misunderstanding.
We see a squid thing that does not look like the face hugger.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. And that's like the big question I had going into this trailer, and I has sort of been answered, but sort of not, is what are we going to do with this story to make it like a show? Like I've yet to be completely convinced that the concept of Alien can work outside of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because like that's a lot of hours you have to fill, and how many hours can you fill with, oh no, it's a scary alien monster, is it going to kill us? Maybe, no, yes, okay. I just don't know how you make I don't know how you make this concept a show. So like I am really intrigued by what we're seeing here, and I think like it is hard to like parse the scenes in like and get a clear picture of like chronologically how all this stuff is going down, right? Because there's definitely going to be a sequence early in the movie or the television show where it seems like it's going to be a team of these synthetics that are sent into the crashed ship to investigate. They're going to find shit. There's probably going to be in a very intense scene where they're walking around the ship, and we're going to see a lot of old alien iconography in the ship. Maybe one of them will get eaten by some sort of alien, but then we're definitely going to do a thing where that stuff's captured, brought back to a lab and studied, and eventually break out, and then we're going to have more problems. So like, I think perhaps the solution here to how you make this into a show is you're going to have multiple layers of, oh no, there's aliens. One situation is going to be dealt with, and then another is going to present itself.
Yeah. I agree that I simply don't see what is the shape of the plot for this show. But that could just be that they don't want to, tell us, right?
Yeah.
Because it does seem to be that part of the like active ingredient here is that the ship has crashed on Earth. So it's not just another iteration of like, oh, we found a derelict spacecraft deep in space, or we found a derelict spacecraft crashed on a planet, which is literally all of the other movies. And in this case, it's on Earth, which gives the possibility of, an infection that is spreading. And so that's kind of a different subgenre. But I don't know.
Did you get the feeling that is going to be part of what this show is from the trailer we saw? Because
no.
Yeah. Because I agree with you, and this is a conversation I've had with my father since I was a little kid. Is like he always wanted to see a version of the Alien story that takes Aliens, his favorite movie ever, and like blows it up to be like, what would happen if these things get to Earth, and what would that look like?
Mm-hmm.
It's like full scale war of humans against a writhing mass of xenomorphs. That doesn't seem like that's the show, which is fine. Like I'm not gonna say like that's bad, but yeah, that's the vibe we got from the trailer was not that.
Yeah, but again, I don't really know, because the trailer does the thing where it's sort of a normal-ish trailer for the first 2/3,
mm-hmm.
and then I feel like the last 1/3 is they're just hitting us with these really short snippets of like, that's clearly a xenomorph.
Yeah.
What's the context of this shot? No idea. Oh, there's the second mouth. Yep. That. But like, there's you completely don't know what the context of this is, and they're definitely doing that on purpose. So
yes,
we're just not being told like, okay, they're telling us there's going to be xenomorphs because we all know when we should clap. We should clap when we see the xenomorph, but we don't know what we're doing with that yet. And I still hope that we. Like, I would love it if it was sort of a, there's multiple scary, weird things that are maybe scary and different and equally horrifying Lovecraftian fashions than just the, standard xenomorph chestburster life cycle thing where like, yeah, that's horrifying, but we've just seen that so many times. I kind of want something just like weird and different in a new way. And I would love it if it was like, not literally an anthology, that wouldn't make any sense given the trailer we just watched, but like sort of a episodic exploration of different Lovecraftian horror monsters.
Mm-hmm.
that would at least be fun. I don't know how that works exactly. I don't know. Basically, I'm pretty open minded about what they're trying to do. The trailer just like looks good visually.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of excited.
I do think that's kind of how you have to stretch the concept, is you have to expand beyond just the same. Like you can't do 10 hours of just looking at xenomorphs. Like I really don't think you can. Yeah. I think that is going to be one way they stretch the concept. I also I'm really curious about what the theming and what we're going to be saying with this thing, because I think Noah Hawley's shows like have a lot to say. And I'm very curious what this is going to say. And this weird thing is happening to me. We did an episode on Alien Romulus last year, and I was pretty mixed on the movie overall. I think that movie has grown in my estimation every day that has gone with past us originally watching it.
Uh-huh.
Like the parts that really bugged me about that movie have shrunk, and the parts that I really love, I find myself thinking about a lot. So like it does that. The side effect of that is I find myself excited about alien stuff for the first time in a very long time. So maybe that's the perfect time for the show to come out, actually.
Yeah, I like that. It's funny. I kind of agree with you, but also I can very clearly and vividly remember the stuff I didn't like. But yeah, simply agree. I'm ready to be heard again. Hit me with some aliens schlock, please.
Yes. All right. Well, we will find out on August 12th how good Noah Hawley does with Alien Earth. I can't wait.
Me too.
All right, folks, that's all we had for you this week. If you have any opinions on Alien Earth, the trailer, on what you think the show is going to be, or on Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights, please feel free to reach out to us. You can find us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com, on Twitter @doofmedia, on Reddit, reddit.com/r/doofmedia, on YouTube, on Instagram @doofmedia. We're all over the place. We're there. Just search for us and you'll find us, I promise.
We're everywhere. If you're not already subscribed to the Doofcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes. We already said all that. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. Can't escape us.
Just search for us.
Yeah.
And we'll be there.
That's right.
If you like what we do here and want to support us, please consider becoming a patron. That is how we fund all this stuff. We don't run ads. We don't do any of that stuff. We just are relying on your donations over at Patreon. So head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia. Check out the available levels, the things you get for them, and sign up and join us. We are running through the television show From right now and enjoying it. And we also have some fun bonus stuff coming up soon. So yeah, check that out. Patreon.com/doofmedia.
That's right. Also, please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Each review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
That is correct, folks. Next week, Matt is going to be gone. He's going to be out of town. He's going to be on vacation or something. I didn't know we were allowed to do that, but apparently that's what he's doing.
Once every 5 years.
So still kind of up in the air on if we're going to have something. I'm trying to connect with Elliot to do maybe an episode on season 2 of Last of Us. So we're going to try to make that happen. So maybe that'll be next week or maybe not. So just be patient. Check out our socials if you want updates on what the schedule is going to be. But we'll see you soon either way.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.